Hello and welcome to the journaling experience, the journaling room live. I'm live here every Monday, 9 p.m. GMT, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on my YouTube channel, Camelle Ilona, Facebook, and also House of Ilona Clergy. Hope everyone is doing well. Always great to be on here. It's a solo show today, so it's just me today, and just wanted to talk about a few things coming up. Want to speak about books, and as always, speaking about journaling, speaking about publishing, and also leaving a legacy. So, in terms of journaling, I've had so many sweet conversations and testimonials and things this week of people who have been journaling. Someone who has been using the Day One app, which is the app that I absolutely love. I've been using it for almost 2,000 days straight. And someone messaged me and they were like, I've done 555 days of journaling, and really exciting, but also exciting to see the amazing things that's happening in their life. The clarity that they had on certain things has been really phenomenal to watch. And so that's my piece on journaling. And I also encourage everyone, because I always say, I believe everyone has a book inside of them, and not every book will be published, but everyone has a message, has a story. One of my sisters, she's a photographer, so her book is way more about photography, whereas others it's about writing. It's different things, but I just believe that so many of us have so much wisdom inside of us. Where we are now is we've overcome so much, and someone's right in the middle of where we've already been and where we've already overcome. And so whether it's written words, spoken words, however you express yourself, there is something in you that can be such an encouragement to someone else. So again, the power of journaling, because when you journal, you go into a very vulnerable space, and that journaling can lead to publishing and it can lead to legacy. But I just find journaling to be so healing and so powerful. It's a tool that many therapists and counselors use. You know, you can have your session and they're like, right, go and journal about this. And so I just think it's a powerful tool that we all have in our tool belt. It's free. We can do it anytime, anywhere. So I'm always encouraging people to journal for their mental health. So the book that I would love to speak to you about today, it came about in a really special way. So this gentleman, David Jones, he's about 91 now, and when I was 14 years old, many moons ago, I did my work experience with him, and so I spent 2 weeks at his office, far away from home. 14 years old, I'm having to get on the bus and the underground and the train and travel all the way from Croydon to St Albans, where his office was, and did my 2 weeks of work experience with him. He is a fashion management consultant, and so they had rows and rows of fashion and designer clothing and magazines coming in and out of their office all the time. It was just an incredible work experience that I had with him for 2 weeks. My teacher called up to see how I was doing a week or so in, and she calls up and she's like, "Hello, can I speak to my student Camille Carter?" And I was like, "Miss Fronskovich, it's me," because I answered like so impeccably. "Hello, David Jones Fashion Management Consultancy. How can I help you?" And she didn't even realize it was me. So I did my work experience with him. I did more fashion studies with him, and when I had my fashion brand House of Ilona, he was a consultant that I would go and see once, twice a month, and really just helped me to grow and scale. And I still go and see him to this day. Once a month, we'll go and have our business meetings. And amongst all of the books I've been publishing, I said to him, "Oh my gosh, you should have a book. You have so much incredible experience that so many fashion students and people would just love to hear about." And he was just like, his hands are shaky, and he was like, "I can't write a book now." And I was like, "Well, I can." And so he said, "Let's give it a try." And so I wrote that first chapter. He absolutely loved it. And so here we are, the man behind the scenes. It's out now. His name is David Jones. And I had the absolute honor and privilege of writing his biography. So way back from World War II days to him being enlisted into the army, and starting out in the pattern cutting room and the pattern cutting floor, and moving his way through to Wallace, to all of these different companies that started to open because we were coming out at the like I wasn't even born at that time, but they were coming out of the war, and so it was all men, it was all uniform, very utilitarian, and now women were starting to get into the workforce, so they were having to now think about the government in the UK were thinking about clothing stores that needed to be available for women going into the workplace, and just that change in fashion. And he was right there in the fashion industry when they had to hand stitch buttonholes, and these machines came in and now they're having to stitch with a machine, and he's watched the industry change so much over the years. And so to be able to sit with him, hear these stories, write the stories, and collate this incredible story was such an honor. And like I said, he's 91 years old. The book is called David Jones, The Man Behind the Seams, as in fashion, as in seams, Life in British Fashion, Leadership and Legacy, available on Amazon now. And yeah, it was just such a privilege to be able to not only write it, but also I had the privilege of sitting with him for about 5 hours one day, and I got to read it to him. It was like reading someone's eulogy while they're still alive. It was like handing him his flowers one at a time. And it was just such an honor and such a privilege. And so I just have a passion for publishing and legacy, people leaving a legacy. What legacy do you have, and who do you know that has an incredible legacy, an incredible journey and story that has to be captured before it's too late? And I really appreciate this because I don't have my grandparents around. I don't have my parents even around to be able to glean from these stories. So I just noticed that within myself, when I am around people with so much wisdom and experience, I literally glean, I just draw from their experience. So this was such an honor and privilege to do. Thank you, Lonette. She said, this is exciting. It really is. My first time writing a biography, and it's out now. And this is my fashion mentor, Mr. David Jones, the man behind the seams, a life in British fashion and leadership. Valerie's joined us. Good to see you, Valerie. Great to see you this evening. I was just sharing about the first biography that I've had the privilege of writing, and not only writing, but sitting with him for many, many sessions, writing the book and then getting to read it to him. So it was just published and out this week, The Man Behind the Seams, written by myself, Camille Ilona Carter, The Man Behind the Scenes, David Jones. So that's that book, and also legacy, and again just the importance of legacy, of thinking about what your own legacy is, no matter how old or young you are. What is the legacy that you currently have? What is the legacy that you want to have in the future? Really, really powerful things to think about, to process, because we have so much in us. As I was saying at the beginning, there is someone who is where you were and maybe struggling, maybe feeling like, I don't know if I'm ever going to make my way out of this, but maybe hearing your story gives them hope that, wow, look where you are now and look where I am, and you're showing me what's possible. So let us always just continue to be a light and an inspiration to others. So as I'm always speaking about, journal, publish, leave a legacy. And this book is definitely part of his legacy, and it was a real honor to be able to write it. And as I'm always asking, do you have a book inside of you? So yes, that was David Jones, The Man Behind the Seams. I'll put that in the chat. If anyone is interested, you can find it on Amazon now. It's a real honor, as I said, to be able to take down and write these life lessons and leave them. What was also interesting is I've known him since I was 14 years old, and it's called The Man Behind the Seams because he really was kind of behind the scenes and behind the seams of a lot of the British fashion industry. And he was never one for the limelight. He was always about pushing others ahead and making sure others were seen and that their work was seen. And even in this book, and, we was talking about doing a big book launch and everything else, and he was just so excited to have his story written. He wasn't interested again in all the fanfare because again he's behind the scenes, but he had this sense even back in the day of the very early stage of the fashion industry. He had a sense that there's something about this fashion industry thing, and he really committed his life to it. And it was a great call because the industry has just grown and grown and grown and blossomed, and he's had a major hand and a major part in the industry. And I think by the time I got towards the end, the final chapter was really through my lens. I kind of saw myself as the bridge, kind of being able to share his story. And I could see a lot of things that I had learned from him. And even when I wrote my first book, Finding Divine Flow, it was really for Christians in business. And I didn't know very many Christians in business, but kind of by faith, I was just like, I feel like this is needed. So I'm just going to write it anyway and just kind of by faith see where it leads. And I mean, I went from not knowing many, probably a handful of Christians in business, to publishing this book and being able to speak on stages around the world to Christians in business. There was one time where a lady who was in fashion, she's a Christian fashion designer in Dubai, that managed to find my book and read it and was encouraged and reached out. So you just never know who your work can impact. You just never know who's out there that needs what you have. And just because you don't necessarily know them or know the audience, I think if you really have a strong feeling to do something, it's worth pushing out to see, because sometimes you could actually be ahead of the curve. You could be a trailblazer in that space. So I'm always encouraging people to share and to pass on their wisdom in whatever way, shape or form. I have books, over 20 books on Amazon and journals, but I'm also doing this, which is taking the form of a podcast, because some people are visual learners, some people like to hear, some people like to read. So whatever that format may be, I just always encourage people to find a way to share your knowledge and expertise. The other thing that I wanted to share today was my new school community, which I'm really excited about. SKOOL. Again, I'll put it in the chat. It's school.com /journaling-experience academy. So I've got the Journaling Experience Academy now on school. So that's my new school community. I'll be doing a lot of things over there in terms of journaling and publishing and self-publishing and leaving a legacy. So again, if you're interested in more than just what I do here on a Monday, but you want to get involved in a community of people who are interested in journaling and setting goals and doing all the things, do come over and join us on school, where I'll be posting different things each week, just to encourage you again in your journaling journeys. And on the topic of legacy and leaving a legacy, it was really interesting because I work with many authors. As I said, I've got over 20 books myself and probably helped easily 100 authors to self-publish. And so we've just got books out there, people speaking, people doing incredible things all over the world. And I began to kind of take a step back and look at the people that I was working with, and found that maybe 80% of the people that I was working with were 60 plus. And again, a high percentage were 70 plus. And it just, again, let me appreciate the amount of people that have something to say and have a legacy to leave. And so I have also started a CIC, which is a community interest company called Flow Stories, where again, a little bit like the biography that I wrote for David Jones, the man behind the scenes, will be doing things like, for example, someone like David Jones, who has a huge background in the fashion industry, connect them with a younger person coming up like I was at 14, 15, 16, 18 years old in the fashion industry, and connecting them, being a bridge between the older generation and the younger generation who has so much wisdom and who's just ready to receive, because there's so much that can be lost. It's great, we've got technology, we're in this new information age and everything else, but there are some incredible treasures, lessons that can only be gleaned through conversations like this with people of experience. So if anyone's interested or know someone who has so much wisdom and knowledge to share, do reach out. I'm definitely looking at collecting a lot more stories, collecting a lot more wisdom from people who have been there and done that, and connecting them into younger people who are interested in those industries and interested in learning and gleaning and learning skills like writing a book or writing a chapter of a book, or being able to interview older people from the next generation. So if anyone's interested, do feel free to reach out. So this is me today. I just wanted to jump on here and just share a little bit about this recent biography that's just out. David Jones, the man behind the seams, a life in British fashion, leadership and legacy. My first biography that I've written for my fashion mentor, written by me, Camelle Ilona Carter, written on his behalf, David Jones, speaking about his life story and his incredible experience and life and legacy in the fashion industry. He's made such a massive impact. Those that have been in the UK for many, many years would have easily worn or seen some of the things that he had a hand in. So this is my piece of legacy that I have had the honor of tapping into. As I said, sat with him on many evenings to collate this incredible piece of work, and then also had the honor at 91 for me to be able to read it back to him and give him his flowers and read back his story. So again, if you know someone who has an incredible legacy and story, do feel free to reach out. I've just started my CIC, which is a community interest company where we will be doing intergenerational storytelling. So again, a little bit like this, connecting the younger generation with the older generation, and just capturing these stories so that they're not lost. Thank you so much, Valerie. She says, congratulations on your first biography. Very, very exciting. So yes, if anyone's interested, it's on Amazon. It's called David Jones, the man behind the seams. Paperback, hardback and Kindle. Again, if you have a book and a story inside of you that you want to tell, that you want to share, that you maybe want some coaching and some accountability to get the book written, do feel free to reach out to me. And also the school community. We've got a community over on school, and it's the Journaling Experience Academy. That's been me today. Thank you so much for joining me on today's show. As always, it's great to be on here to connect with you and to share what's going on. Looking forward to having another guest next week. I'm here on a Monday, 9 p.m. GMT and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me. Much love and blessings. Bye.